so I don't forget that again, right? Happy Saturday to all you Sealy warriors out there. So happy to have you on. And we're going to get going here in about another minute or so. We'll give it a little bit more time for people to show up. We got some outstanding individuals in the house already. Donnie is here, my wife, Lee, Melinda, Peggy, Tom. If you've got some others that you would like to have on here, I know we still got another minute or so before we're going to get started, but I encourage you to send out a quick text reminder. Let them know this is going to be dynamite training, especially for those that like, I want to say checklists or like a methodology. It's going to be a little bit more heady, if you will, than some of the trainings that I do, but it's just some really, really great information, as well as capturing the philosophy on just basic human psychology and how we actually communicate with people. So let's see, we're going to get this started in just a few minutes. Let me get this back to here and just messing around with some stuff here. So hopefully everybody's having a great Super Saturday. We got about another 15 seconds. We're going to start launching this training. Once again, I encourage you to make sure you have a notepad and pen, and that you are also if you have the ability to send out some text messages to your team members, I encourage them all to be on. This is going to be very worthwhile training. And with that being said, I do have the top of the hour. So let me go back into shared screen here. Just kind of cover a little bit of the overview of what we're going to be talking about here. There you go. So over on the left side, the basic closing strategies. You know, the whole thing behind closing, and that's just a sales term, and this is not necessarily, you know, as Sarah did such a great job over the last couple of weeks to help us all understand that this is not necessarily sales, it's more community building. But when we're using the term set or closing in this and prospects, just understand it's a way to be able to simplify and use a common terminology that everybody can understand. I personally don't like closing because it's just the beginning, right? The whole concept here is to help people understand the value of what they're looking at. And the challenge for many, and you've heard my story, I even done some lives on it recently. I came to network marketing like this. I was so closed off to it. I was not open to really wanting to know. I only went to the meeting because I was sick and tired of having people, my wife and this friends of ours saying, you got to go check this out. So I did it just to get them off my back, right? But when I was there, I was open to an avenue that literally changed our lives and allowed us to retire early, as you know the rest of our story. So the term closing, yeah, I think of it as an opening, as a beginning, but it's a sales term, and we're going to use it throughout this training as well. And we're going to talk about follow-ups. The fortune is in the follow-up. I mean, how many times have you heard that, right? It truly, truly is. And then a question close. I've had this from the very beginning that we've been here. I'm actually going to share specifically Brad Hager's 8-question close that he built multiple six-figure monthly businesses with. So the 8-question close is very, very powerful. I also have modified it for our team, and I've had it out there from the beginning regarding Sealy directly, and it's got a lot more verbiage to it. I'm going to show an example of that as well. And remember, an objection is basically a way for people to gather more information, slow the thing down, if you will. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. And you can't answer an objection unless it's raised, right? So if somebody's not getting started, it usually means that there's a hidden objection that you haven't uncovered yet. And we want to help you be able to figure out ways to be able to go through that. And that's one of the things that the 8-question close helps out with. And handling objections, yeah, I think I've got the chats enabled this time. So hopefully I do. And if you guys want to utilize that throughout, if you have think of an objection you want me to try to work on, I'll do my best to attack it. And the thing about handling objections, they're context based as well. I mean, we can throw out an objection and then try to give an answer, but the challenge is we don't know all the backstory, right? How was this presented to the prospect to get to that objection to begin with? So how you actually answer an objection in a conversation with somebody is going to be dependent on a lot more than just simply handling the objection. Now, cold calling, yeah, there's scripts for cold calling objections and stuff. But when you're talking with somebody that you know or you've built a relationship with, maybe through social media, that a lot of it's going to be based on the context. And I just thought of it. I wish I would have had some of these recent interactions between people on Facebook so I could show you their objections and then how I went and handled it. I don't have it prepared and ready to go. But that's something we can talk further on as well. And then I do want to cover the Sealy promotion. If we have time, we'll get to the importance of upgrades. You know, we're in the red zone right now, right? The last 10 days of the month. This is when we're looking at upgrades and getting people started and, basically closing, right? So it's perfect timing for this training. Of course, we've got this amazing Sealy promotion that's going on as well. So that's kind of our overview. So let's just dive right into this with these and I appreciate everybody else that's joined us here now. We've got quite a crowd here, so I'm really happy to see that because this really is going to be valuable information. Once again, I encourage you to send out, if you've got a team or so and you haven't already, you just joined us, if you haven't already, send out a quick text reminder, remind them that this training is going on because this is something that everybody can use. We don't teach it very often. Yes, I'll have it recorded. Yes, I'll put it up on my YouTube channel so you'll have access to it and our team boards channel, but there's nothing like getting it live. And maybe that person on your team has a genuine question that we can answer here while we're doing this live, and it will benefit everybody. All right, so what are follow-ups? All right, so you've put a person into process, right? Maybe they've seen a webinar, maybe you sent them a link, maybe they got questions about the product, whatever it may be, but this is not your first approach, right? That's what we did 2 weeks ago. That's what Sarah's been training on as well, the initial reaches. But now when you've done that, what do you do? The follow-ups are really important in building a connection, a deeper connection with this person and developing deeper trust. And this goes true for even friends and family members, right? They're the toughest challenge of all. Sometimes the cold market can be a lot easier because they don't come in like this, right? Maybe they're already looking or whatnot. So let's just see here. I got a text message. Just want to make sure it's nothing really important. Okay, still disabled. What does that mean? You guys can hear me and see me? I'm not sure what that means. Tom, if you can put in the chats what you mean by still disabled, I appreciate that. So I make sure we're getting this out, okay? So anyhow, follow-ups are really, really important. Showing concern and caring for your prospect. And I'm going to show you some statistics. We're going to we're going to go through, okay, questions and answers. Chat not available to use. Chat is disabled. Well, I don't know how to, I don't know. I apologize. That's what Tom meant. I don't know why it's still disabled. I'm seeing it on mine. It doesn't give me an option to whatever. So I apologize, but we won't be out of the chat feature then, okay? But follow-ups are showing that concern and caring for your prospects. And I'm going to show you some statistics here, some of which blew my mind when I was doing the research on it. Connections, conversations, and conversions. Okay, conversions is another sales term. Again, you just bear with me on the sales terms. But all three of these are very, very important to the process. And consistency and persistence are the key. All right, so connections, the conversations, the ongoing conversations, and then helping people see the light. You can do these through phone calls, of course, in-person meets, which is the best way because you're looking, person gets to look you in the eye, you get to look them in the eye. Zoom is probably your next best option, especially if you're not the location is not general. And then you got emails and messengers and texts as well. So these are some of those stats that I was going to talk about. Only 3% of your market is actively buying at any time. That means they're actually out there making a purchase, all right? Let's say you've got 100 people in the pool, all right? 3%, 30 people are buying no, that would be 30%. 3% are 3 people are buying out of that 100 at any one time. They're actually making a purchase. 40%, however, are looking to buy, all right? And then the rest won't buy no matter what you do. So part of this process is also filtering out those. Yeah, state a goal for yourself. I'm going to close 9 out of 10 people, but this is telling you that is unrealistic. If you're getting 4 out of 10, you're doing really, really good. If you get better and better at this, yeah, your rates might go up to 6 to 8, but getting 10 out of 10 is almost an impossibility. And you probably don't want all those people on board anyhow, unless they're just buying a product. 48% of salespeople never make a single, not even one, follow-up attempt after a cold call. Where does that come into place? When we're doing the training, what we've been talking about over the last month, and reaching out on Facebook. You reach out on Facebook, you get a message back, and you don't even follow up with the person. Or you post a live and somebody puts, hey, I would love more information. 48%, nearly half of salespeople, don't even respond, don't even reach back out. That just blows my mind, right? 44% of salespeople give up after one follow-up call. That isn't enough. And we're going to get into that here more. 60% of customers say say no 4 times before saying yes. So look at this one. If you're only doing one follow-up call and it's saying 5 follow-up calls is most often required, almost half of sales are not closed because of the lack of follow-ups. 8% of salespeople have more than 5 follow-up or touches, be the 8 percenters. 80% of sales require 5 follow-up calls. That's a lot, folks. You're saying you're getting a no, you're getting a no, you're getting a no, you're getting a maybe. Well, let me see about this. And then you're finally getting the person to say yes. All right. So don't give up. In other words, this is persistency and consistency are the keys. So here's the big one. 2% of sales are made on the first contact. So if you're closing people on your first reach, you are doing great. Don't be hard on yourself if the other 8 out of 10 don't. All right. 3% are made on the second, 5% on the third, 10% on the fourth, and there it is. 80% of closures come on the 5th to 12th contact. So if you're getting no's, if you're getting rejections, that's why we're going to cover the rest of this on this training. Is first of all, be mentally prepared for it. I'm letting you know right now, it's not you per se. This is not in network marketing sales. This is in sales general. I'm going to show the reference here at the end, but this is just in sales in general, right? So it's not you. It's not the product. It's not the industry. Get that all the time. It's not your people. It's not your location. This is in general. It takes 5 to 12 follow-up calls for 80% to close. So ask yourself, are you honestly doing that much of the follow-up? Oh man, I just thought of something else I wanted to have here too. I'm going to see if I can find it. One of the things that we had as a tool when we first got started, remember, we were in our 25 years of doing this network marketing thing, we didn't have the internet. You didn't have a lot of these electronic things. So we did everything manually. And we had these Cardex in files. And where basically you would fill out a person. Let me come out of stop share for a second. Man, I really wish I would have thought I'm not sure where this thing is. If I can find it really easy or not. Oops, stop share. Okay. So we would have this index card file, and you could have it by month, you could have it by week, and you fill out a person's information in a Cardex index file, and then you file it, right? And then you build this thing up. And then after the first week or 3 days, 5 days, whatever system you were using, we're going to talk about some of those ideas. You would go back to the beginning of that Cardex file, pull out the person, give them a call, and do your follow-up. It was a very disciplined way to make sure you were doing these follow-ups. So you can develop, we can talk more about that at a later time. We can talk about it at our team meeting. Maybe on Monday, I'll bring out a Cardex index file that I believe would work really well. So you could have ones by month, January, February through December. You could have one by the week, however you want to do it. But these index files, and you might be able to organize this on your phone with all these different apps that are out there and everything else. But the index file way is a great way because now you can actually write down notes right there, what you talked about, where this person's at, what you sent them, all those kinds of things, and you've got it right there for you. It worked in the past. It would still work today. All right. Let's see. Web leads. All right. Where does this become a player? With social media. And maybe you're doing web advertisements and those kinds of things as well. Some people are in Sealy by Design right now. Web leads are 9 times more likely to engage if you follow up within 5 minutes. All right. I know I've talked with Angela. I know that Martin Riff, some other leaders are doing some of that web-based type of advertising and stuff. Very important you get back with the prospect immediately after you get a notification that they responded to your website. 50% of buyers go for the vendor that replies first. All right. So if somebody's out there looking for the latest and greatest in NAD and we've got ageless, you want to be the first person that responds to that person. Okay. 75% of online buyers want to receive 2 to 4 phone calls. This one also blew my mind. But when I think about it from my own perspective in the past, when somebody wants to we get into a conversation, they're trying to sell me on something, I usually don't buy on the first phone call, even from friends. All right. It usually takes 2 or 3 phone calls. I don't know what the psychology is behind that. Maybe I just want to see if they're really serious. Maybe if I want to see they really believe in their product. Whatever it is, this is a statistic. All right. 2 to 4 phone calls. Don't give up before you've met or exceeded these expectations. Many sales, again, happen on the 5th call. 12% of online buyers would like a company to call until they get a hold of them, often leaving voicemail messages. This one I can definitely attest to for me. If somebody gives me a call and they don't leave a voice message, my chances of calling them back are very little. Even if they do, I may about 10% of the time. Depends on the voice message they leave, right? So again, it goes back to this continuous consistency, persistency does pay off according to the statistics, not my opinion, right? 42% of the people would be encouraged to buy at an appointed time. And then 57% of people appreciate low pressure follow-ups, okay? What can I do better? 70% of reps only send 1 email to prospects. So if you're doing email as your primary method of operation, if you will, and interacting with other people, a lot of people still love emails. A lot of people do use emails. So I would apply this now also too, but the statistics necessarily won't apply. But you can think of this in the mindset with social media, right? Only 70% of reps send 1 email. Oh, send only 1 email. Okay. Your chance of hearing back is 25%. So you're increasing the number of responses if you send more than 1 email. But interestingly, all right, they're saying down here that, oh, I guess I jumped ahead. I should have reorganized this. Okay. They're going to talk about how the number of days that you lapse in between on sending more than 1 email. Let's just go in order. A first follow-up email can result in 220% surge in reply rates. So if somebody is following up to your email, you want to follow up, or their message, you want to follow up right away as well. Cold email outreach campaigns, okay, spamming, if you will, with 3 total emails have 9.2% replies. After 3 total emails, the replies even decrease further. Cold emailing, spamming, if you will, is very difficult way. I don't recommend that at all for our business, but it can work. 47% of email recipients open emails based on the subject line alone. Can you relate? You can almost recognize this is spam before you even open up the email and you delete it so you don't get into their whatever, right? So be mindful of what you're using in your subject line. 69% of the recipients use the subject line to detect spam. There's this one related to number 2, waiting 3 days results in a 31% increase. So that kind of surprised me, all right? Your chances of a response drops 24% after 5 days. So if that's sitting in your inbox and you don't get to it till a week later, you've probably lost the prospect. We are in a now kind of mindset, right? That's the culture that has been created for whatever reason. These all came from Elliot Burdett, and it was published basically the beginning of this year. It's a great article. There's a lot more in there as well, but just kind of give you an idea. So now let's move. That's the importance of the follow-ups. What do you say? bring down this. What do you say in the follow-up? You're asking questions, right? That's the whole thing we've been training on regarding qualifying questions. So if you're unsure what these qualifying questions are, you may want to go back and review that as well. In this book, this is the Bible, on my opinion, on how to master the art of selling by Tom Hopkins. He actually talks about qualifying questions in here as well. Sarah did a training on it. I've done trainings on it as well. It's really important. That's what you want to do when you're initiating these follow-ups. You want to get in and understand what their challenge is, what they're going through mentally, emotionally, physically, their health, whatever it may be, their wealth, their financial background in that. In other words, you're not just jumping in and vomiting all over them with what you have. You want to start building this relationship and start building trust. And the way you do that is show genuine concern for that individual. Everything else gets blocked out of your world when you're talking with this person, when you're communicating with this person, whether you're doing it on the phone, whether you're doing it on a chat. And I recommend, just like Sarah said, get off the chat as fast as possible, get onto a Zoom call, which is best, or at least a phone call, so they can hear the tonality, they can hear the genuineness out of your heart as you're speaking with this person. Again, we are not trying to convince anybody. And your chances, even if you are able to stiff arm them to get in to buy a product or to come into the business, they're probably going to leave just as fast as they came in, right? Because it wasn't their idea. They're going to get buyer's remorse. That's where that comes from. 2-3 days later, like, what did I just do, right? So you don't want that. You want this to become their idea. People love to buy, they hate to be sold. So if you come across just trying to pitch the latest great thing since sliced bread, which truly this is, all right, this is the best thing in the world out in the marketplace right now for your health. There's no doubt about that. This is unlike anything else in the world. And nobody else can do what we're doing with that. Nobody else has that formulation. Nobody else has that nanosizing, being able to deliver it directly to the cells. But if you use that approach right from the out of the gates, chances are people are going to backpedal, right? They're like, what's this all about? Why is this person trying to sell me? So you want the whole concept of these follow-ups is to be deepening the rapport with the person that you're communicating with, okay? So now you've done that. All right. You've done that. You've been building up the rapport with the person. This is when we first got started, we had this book, Who Do You Know? Okay, that some leaders that we used to work with in the past. And then we also had Ads to Your Business. These are Brad Hager marketing material. And the reason why I'm showing that is because this is not my stuff. This is his stuff, trademarked, all right, copyrighted, if you will. But that's what we used to hand out to people. We do it now in other ways, like our Let's Go sheet. Maybe your team has something specifically that you're using as well. But basically all that kind of information is there. Now, this 8-question close, there is a very distinct psychological process behind this. And what that is to help understand, for that person to help understand the value in it for them. Why would they want to do it? You know why you feel it would be great for them. You know that you have the best thing. And if they just saw this, man, they would get started and they could just knock this out of the park. You know that, but they don't. And you can't convince them, or you don't want to convince them that what you are thinking is what they should be thinking. All right? No, that doesn't work. What you want to do is get them to start seeing the idea that you see, but for themselves, through their own eyes, through their own map of the world, if you will, how they see the world and how it can be a fit for them. So this 8-question close works because of that psychology. And this was perfected from Brad over many years of doing this. So it starts out, and this is what we've always taught people, right? Don't ask them, what did you think? After they've seen something, maybe it's just the silly switch, just about the products. Maybe it's a full webinar. Maybe they were on a Sunday webinar. Maybe they just did a VGO, whatever it is, or you just had a phone call and you were explaining it. You never ask a person, what did they think? All right, because they're likely to tell you, and you don't necessarily want to hear what they think. All right, what you do want to know is what's got them most excited. And I like that phraseology even better. I said, what's got you most excited right now, Danya, with everything that you've seen thus far? And again, this is just the verbiage. All right. Now you put the tonality, the personal touch behind it, and the feeling behind it, right? You can say, tell me, Danya, what did you like best about what you saw today? Great. That is wonderful. Okay. Sounds like a robot, right? So, in other words, you want to kind of go this and be fluid with it. When I first got us, when this was first brought to my attention, when I was first introduced to all this, I can tell you, I practiced this over and over and over. And I wanted to be able to know those 8 questions in order in a fluid manner. If you want to spend that time in it, you can. If you don't, that's fine too. At least have the script out. Okay. So tell me, Donnie, what did you like best about what you saw? I mean, what's got you the most excited so far? All right. Or thus far, something along those lines. Question 2. Well, Donnie, tell me again, what's your occupational background? What do you do for a living? All right. So yeah, maybe this is your best friend and you absolutely know what they do for a living. All right. So there's multiple different ways that you can ask this question. You're like, you could say, hey, Danya, I know that you're into fashion and retail. How long have you been doing that again? I mean, when did you get started? How did you get started doing that? So I'm getting them talking about themselves. We're shifting the focus from this to this. That's the importance behind this question. A lot of people will skip over this question. Well, I already know what they're doing. You're missing the psychology behind people's buying habits. All right. So that's question 2. Question 3. Interesting. How does the future look there? So, Danya, so you've been in fashion since, for the last 20 years. Must be something you're really passionate about, isn't it? Yes. Another thing that you want to do in this process is get them to say yes to as many of your closed-ended questions as you can. So, yes. Right. Yeah. Well, how does the future look there? I mean, much longer do you see yourself doing this? Regardless of what the occupation is. And that is also opening up them starting to get to think them, and you could work this into the process of this question, their vision for their life. Where do they see themselves in 5 years? Is what you're doing currently going to get you there in the next 3 to 5 years? That would be another type of question or something that could fall into question 3. 4, well, Donnie, do you have any other source of income other than your fashion business or your job or whatnot? Are you doing anything else on the side currently? Pretty straightforward on that one. This is a good place now. They say, yeah, I've got this mobile coffee shop or something, that I'm doing, but it's not really paying the bills. This is basically breaking even. And like, hey, you know what, Danya? I understand. And even though I never ran a coffee shop, I did have a job. So I can kind of understand where you're at right now. And I was also thinking about how am I going to get from point A to point B? I wanted to retire at 55. And I'm like, my current track, I don't know how in the world I'm going to be able to do that. And at that time, I was making pretty good money. I couldn't see myself continuing making that money on a monthly basis until I saw and somebody took the time to share with me this incredible opportunity of network marketing, whatever you want to, however the context of the conversation is, right? And what I realized is that with a little bit of diligence and effort on my part, and getting started with this company, a year and a half, I was actually able to walk away from my job in part due to the income coming in from Sealy by Design. All right. So that's your 30. Well, that was probably a minute and a half. All right. But you get the idea. Feel, felt, found. I feel what you're saying. All right. My gosh. Feel, felt, found. I feel you. I felt the same way. And here's what I learned. All right. Feel, felt, found works like a magic. So Danya, tell me, if you did something like this, how much money would you like to start making on a part-time basis? We're looking 7 to 10 hours per week. What would that look like? I will tell you this from years, 20 years plus years of doing this, over 3/4 of the time, people will not be able to answer that question. Oh my gosh, I never really thought about that. It's unbelievable. So that just goes to show you how little people actually are able to see beyond today or beyond tomorrow. This question is so critically important, and how you handle the person's response is even more so. So what I will typically get from this, wow, man, I never really thought about that before. Well, Don, just let's play for fun. Out of curiosity, what type of income right now, if it would be 500, 1,000, $2,000 coming in on a monthly basis, would make a real difference in your life? And that's how I get around that question. You can do that easily here. We have people making 20, 30,000. You caveat that for the person you're talking to. Again, as Brad will say, the waitress at Denny's, not, just using that as an example, maybe a waitress that's not used to making 20, $30,000 on a monthly basis, somebody, whatever it is, right? The factory worker, something like that. You want to kind of make it what they're making and just a little bit more. So maybe they're accustomed to making $5,000 on a monthly basis. I would up that to, hey, we've got lots of people doing $7,000 to $10,000 on a monthly basis. Or utilize the answer that they gave you, an extra $2,000 would really help me out right now. Wow, Danya, I'll tell you what, we have lots of people doing $2,000, $5,000 on a monthly basis. I'm sure if you got started here and you plugged into our system, we could help you with that. So that's how you kind of work question 5. Question 6, Danya, let me ask you something else. To make that extra $2,000 on a monthly basis, how many hours per week would you be willing to invest? Let them respond. We've already kind of planted into them multiple times now, 7 to 10 hours per week in the webinar, whether it's a VGO, whatever. So, and we just mentioned it up here as well. So, another thing on that 30-second commercial to mention is that you started part-time if you did. All right. So you're edifying that you don't need to be full-time here to make a real difference in your life. So how many hours per week would you be willing to invest? And you're going to affirm there, well, I could see myself doing 10 hours a week. Well, great. What we ask for is 7 to 10 hours. So you undercut it a little bit even, right? So I'm sure if you're willing to put in that extra hour a day or so, cut out an hour of TV, then we can more than likely get you to that extra $2,000 on a monthly basis. Number 7, now let me ask you something else, Donnie. To make that extra $2,000 on a monthly basis, could you pop a few people onto a call? Now, this used to say pop a few ads in the newspaper because that's how we used to run this business, right? When Brad created this 8-question close. So I just changed it. Could you pop a few people onto a call, webinar, et cetera, like you saw last night? All right. Now, obviously, for a VGO, the goal is to have them bring on 20 people. So again, in the context of this conversation, if you just had a VGO and you had 20 people on there, and this was one of the people that got started, then I would use 20. If you just did a VGO and you had 10 people on there, I would use the number 10. I'm going to mirror what they just saw. All right. And if it's just a phone call, hey, could you pop me on a 3-way call and have me go over this just like we did with you? Could we do 10 calls like that? Whatever it is, you want to help. What you were doing now is shifting the conversation to how can I do it? How can they do it? They're starting to see it from their own eyes, how I can do this business. All right. This is a big, huge psychological shift that we're going through here. And then 8 out of the 8, let me ask you, to make that extra $2,000 a month, Danya, what budget are you willing to work with? If they are asked, what do you mean by budget? Well, Donnie, as you saw during the webinar, you can start from $89 to $899. I changed the numbers to reflect what we have. So what looks best to you? Okay. So that is basically the 8-question close verbatim with a little change from Brad Hager. And it works. I can tell you, when I was using this on a regular basis, especially with cold people coming off of newspaper ads and that, by the time you get to question 5, 6, or 7, they're ready to go. You don't even get to 7 and 8 most times, all right? Because they're starting to see it from their eyes. They can see how they can do it. I want to share a quick story. I did a 3-way call with one of our members and their prospect recently, and they hadn't really seen much. They just knew a little bit about the product. but they were kind of, I think they had seen a recorded webinar, but they were a little bit hesitant, right? And they're thinking, wow, man, it's a lot of money. I'm going to have to run that through my husband and blah, 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 blah. So I got the call, right? We do this 3-way call, and I basically went through this 8-question close and related it to this person, their occupation, what they normally do in their work. And the next thing you know, they signed up with a consumer pack. Hey, a consumer pack is at least getting them in the system so they can check us from the inside out. Try the product. If they're really super excited, now they can take the next step forward. So, do I still use this? You better believe it. And when you really start to learn that flow of the 8-question close or the 8-question follow up, what you do is it becomes internal and you can navigate almost any conversation to a successful completion. And if you don't, well, you schedule another follow-up. Maybe they need additional information, right? You listen to their objection, whatever that might be, and then you handle that objection accordingly. All right. Right. Hey, we're moving right along. Hopefully you guys are getting some good notes on this as well. All right, so this is the modified 8-question follow-up. This is what I took when I got started with Sealy. What I wanted to do is to help out my members how to use this 8-question close with Sealy. So I created this, and we'll just kind of go through this real quick. For all those that are on our team, it's in boards. If you're not on our team, let me know you want this, or let Angela know, or whoever you're working with, and we'll get this to you. All right. I'm not keeping this for myself. All right. It does me no good. I already know this. But for you, it can be dynamite. I would have it printed out. I would have it pretty much memorized, or at least that basic flow pattern. Write it out how it makes sense to you. And until you have this memorized, I would have it on your phone in notes or something. So you're talking to somebody on the phone, you have very quick access, have it in your journal, whatever, have it sitting next to your computer so that you can be able to go through these questions. And the more you do this, the more comfortable you're going to get and the more effective it's going to be for you. All right. You want to use their name as often as possible. Let's see here. And this is basically it. I just kind of put a little bit more emphasis on what we're doing here with Sealy. Tell me, if you were get started with us in Sealy, how much money would you like to make each month? And just starting a part-time basis. You could also use how much money do you want to make and how fast do you want to make it? That would be a great place to put that in here, right? Anyhow, that's that. All right. So there's some information there for you if you want that as well. Handling objections. Let's talk about what objections are first. All right. If you got some objections, common objections, and you want to, we'll get you to raise your hand. We'll get you unmuted. And because we don't have the chat feature, unfortunately, we'll we'll see what we can do and how we handle it. Okay. And we're probably going to ask you for some context behind it. So here's one thing for sure. I'm going to bring that back down again. Here's one thing for sure. Brad teaches this. He teaches this in this book as well. If you're getting a common objection over and over again, well, I just want to think about it, but you get that all the time, 10 out of 10 or 8 out of 10, then you're creating the objection. All right. It's not about them. It's about something that you're doing. Barbara Ferrant, she asked an amazing question to Sarah last week that Sarah gave basically the same answer. You got to look internally. Yes, there's a lot of this stuff that's going on with the other person, but make sure you're not creating the objection to begin with through your language or the way you're responding to the person, with your body language, with your tonality, without your smile, you're not grinning. All right. There's a lot of things that you can do. You want to be open and receptive to the other person. If you're doing a Zoom call and they're sitting back there like this, and you're like this, you guys are out of rapport. All right. You want to try to get this person to sit on the edge of their seat. And the easiest way to do is to get them talking about themselves. So if you're doing a Zoom call and you start to see this from the other person, you're falling out of rapport and you'll never make a sale doing that. So what you can do, hey, Danya, we've been talking a while, but you had mentioned something, and I'm going to refer back to that and go, hey, Danya, could you tell me a little bit more about that? And that's going to perk up Danya. That's going to get Danya to shift her physiology. I can't tell you how important this stuff is. See, in the old days before Zoom, you did this in person, you could see it very easily and very quickly. And Zoom, sometimes it's a little bit harder to do, especially if you got slides going and they're just this big and stuff. But your sensory acuity as to what they're doing and how they're responding to what you're saying is crucial. Now, if you're doing this on the phone alone, you can hear it in their tonality. And if you're doing all the talking and you're not asking questions, then you can't hear their tonality, right? You can't hear how they're responding. You can't hear their excitement. So even more important on the phone is to make sure you're talking 30, 45 seconds, a minute at the most, and then you're throwing in a question to ask them to keep them engaged in the conversation. If you're not doing that, folks, you're going to lose them. All right. What makes some people able to close more people than others? And some people go, man, it's my people, it's where I live, those kinds of things. It's this basic stuff that we're teaching you right now. I mean, Brad goes into such specific as to teach how to shake somebody's hand. And when I learned that the first time, I'm like, oh my gosh, you're meeting somebody in person and you greet them with the limp fish, all right, or the strong arm. That makes a difference right from the get-go. Do you greet them with a smile? Are you happy to see them? Do you welcome them in? Or are you kind of like closed off when you're saying hi to, oh, good to be here? All these little things, the little things that make the biggest difference, and they all add up. And so when you're doing this now virtually or, not in person, you've got to take have those kinds of thoughts. How can I make and build this deeper rapport, this deeper connection with this person even more? All right. Cool. Handling objections. So what are objections? I should have put that first. What are objections? Until you learn how to handle objections, you're not going to approach your potential. In other words, you're only closing 1 out of 10 when you could be closing 6 out of 10. All right. Objections is a natural part of the process of sales. All right. They're rungs of ladder to the success. This is all out of Tom Hopkins' book, The Artist, How to Master the Art of Selling. An objection is a statement by prospects that they want to know more. There are two kinds, a minor objection and a major objection. A major objection, it just ain't for them for whatever reason. They absolutely 100% can't afford it. They absolutely hate network marketing. They're not going to want to have anything to do with your business, no matter how much you try to convince them. So like trying to convince somebody in religion or politics, it just ain't going to happen, and it ain't worth your time. Here's the thing about trying to convince somebody. You spent all that time trying to convince somebody. You finally got them started. Your ego is like, woohoo, I'm victorious, all right? I'm King Kong because I got this person started. I knew I could get him in. And then they're out just as fast. And meanwhile, in that day, 2, 3, 4 days, week, month that you spent on this person trying to convince them when they were giving you all the signals they didn't want to have anything to do with this, you let 10 good prospects go by because you didn't have time for them, because you're focused on the one that was an easy target because they were actually responding to you and you had somebody to talk to. But the signal was there that they were never going to do this to begin with. So be very mindful of that as well. And that's what this poker is. A good poker player knows when to throw in a losing hand. Yeah, they may have, $100 into that pot. And they're like, maybe I just get that queen of spades that I need for this flush. But your chances of getting that queen of spades are horrendous. So you don't go all in and match the pot when somebody else does. You fold. You realize it's a losing hand. The same thing applies here. You've done your best doing the 8-question close. Folks, if they're not ready to get started at the 8-question close, do the takeaway. Hey, you know what, Donnie, this just might not be for you right now. I totally get it. And I want to honor and respect that. I don't want to waste any more of your time, nor my time. So I'll tell you what, how about I follow up with you in about a month and see if things have changed? Would that be okay with you? And they'll say yes. But if they really are interested, they're going to go, well, wait a second, So be mindful of all that. If the people you're talking with don't object to anything during your time together. Folks, I should have put this one in red. They're not listening or not qualified. In other words, they won't buy. So if you think you get through a presentation and you call them up and you go, what did you like best? And oh man, I loved everything. I really love the money. I love the car bonus, whatever it is. Well, you ready to get started? Well, no, I just kind of want to think about it. Well, that in itself can be an objection, but it's not a real objection, right? What does think about it mean? Think, right? Think. What does that mean? Unless you start bogging down or drilling down on what think means, you have not even uncovered an objection, much less being able to answer it. All right. So if they're not giving you any objections through your entire process, if you're doing one-on-one, I welcome people to speak up. If I'm doing it as a VGO or a webinar, I don't want people interrupting me because I want to keep the flow going. That's one of the reasons why I tend to do, I don't allow people to speak while doing a VGO, whether you're doing it on a meeting or a webinar, because I want to get through this flow, because an objection from somebody at the wrong time can blow somebody else out. All right. Typically, when I finish a VGO, we get off the phone and we start calling the people back individually. Very rarely will I open up the mic after a VGO for people to ask questions. I don't encourage you to do it. I've lost lots of people in doing it in the past. Again, it depends on the circumstances, but 9 times out of 10, I will not do that. We'll get on the phone after the VGO, virtual grand opening, private webinar, to call the people back individually so we can have a conversation with them and handle the objections at that time. All right. Objections, concerns are nothing more than ways for your potential client to just slow things down. They don't want to jump into a rash decision and from feeling that they're being sold. So the more sales pitchy you are, the more objections you're more likely to get, the more of this you're likely to get. And, you're working behind the 8 ball. So again, be warm, build that rapport. It's so important to do. Now, somebody does raise an objection. The number one thing you don't do is what? Defend yourself, right? Do not argue with the person. Well, I use this supplement right now, this vitamin C multivitamin, and it's nano size and it's wrapped in liposomes. Oh, there's a big keyword, right? Wrapped in liposomes. So I'm getting direct cellular nutrition. No, they're not. No, you're not. You know why? Because those liposomes, when they wrap together, they actually agglomerate and they're actually bigger than when they even started. And your body's still got to break all that down and get. No, that's not going to work. All right. Don't argue with them. Even though you're in the right, the very best thing to always do is agree with them initially. All right. Start trying to understand things from their point of view. And then don't attack. All right. These 2 things were my biggest challenge in getting started. Why? Because I had this thing about having to be right. One of the things that, if you read my book and you read my story at that very first event that I went to with Nirka, the Neogenesis event, one of the things that I had down is my core value. A core value of mine was having to be right. And I'm not alone in that, because doing this business for a long time, I can tell you there's a lot of people that feel that way. I just want to prove my point. If you see it from my eyes, then you're going to get started. So let's just sit down and listen. All right. It doesn't work. It took me years to figure that part out. All right. So don't argue, don't defend, and don't try to prove your point that you are right. It's not about you. It's about the other person being able to see what you see from their eyes, from their perspective. I cannot emphasize this enough. All right. Now, one of the things you do want to do, scripts, staying on script. I brought this up at the end of Sarah's training last week. Scripts keep you on track and keep you from getting derailed and getting into these 2 things. That's the beauty of scripts. You keep the emotions, your personal, your ego out of the game, and the scripts are going to help you keep it on about the other person. Look at that 8-question close or 8-question follow-up. It is a script. If you follow the script, you're going to avoid these 2 things. If you don't, chances are you could slip into this. So just be very, very mindful about it. What you do want to do is lead them to the answer, their own objections. Make it their idea. Oh, that's supposed to be say. When I say it, they tend to doubt it. When they say it, it's true. All right. What do I have on here? So there is a system, and again, this is in this book. Hear them out. Listen to them fully. Don't interrupt them. Allow them to complete their thought and their sentence. When you do that, sometimes they'll go, oh my gosh. Or if they're sitting with their spouse, the other spouse is going to handle the objection. All right. So let them do the work for you. That's the dynamic you really want. But listen to what they're saying. If you need to write down some notes because they're going into this long dissertation, which people sometimes will, write down some notes of some of the key words that they're using and then feed back whatever they just said. So, Donnie, I know you're saying that, well, man, you're really busy. You don't have the time to be doing something like this. Let me ask you a question. All right. And then what I'm usually going to ask them is, well, what are you doing with that extra time that you don't have 7 to 10 hours? You don't have 1 hour a day. Just walk me through your current day. What does a current day for you look like? I want to understand. I can't answer an objection where I don't have enough information. So what does a current day look like for you? Maybe we can find time in there. How long is your commute? Do you have 30 minutes in your commute? Many people do. 20 to 30 minutes, I think, is about the average commute time, 15 to 30 minutes. That's 15 to 30 minutes you can be on the phone talking to people. All right. 15 to 30 minutes, you can be doing follow-ups. 15 to 30 minutes listening to a webinar. 15 to 30 minutes, you can do a lot in 15 to 30 minutes when you have focused, dedicated time to do it. And so we just work with the person. How can we help them fit in that time? Another one regarding time. Yeah, I understand, Donnie, you're very busy. You're a CEO of this company. You're executive with this company. It's very demanding. You never know when you're going to be called in to go to, do some extra work, or those hours are going to go on long. Let me ask you this. You've got contacts that I don't have. I've got time that you don't have. And you know what? You don't have time to learn all this either, do you? All right. Or answer it in a way that they're going to say yes. But here's the thing, Danya. I understand this business very well. I do this full time. This is all I do. You just, play with it however it works for you. Here's what we can do. We could actually have an agreement that you feed me some of your best contacts and I'll work with them. And if they decide to get started, they're going to be your member. You're going to receive that 25% personal sales bonus. You're going to receive the team commissions from that. You're going to receive the mentor bonus for it, even though I did all the work. But see, you've got contacts I don't have, and I want to help you be successful. I've got the knowledge, the wisdom, the experience here to help you with your contacts. How does that sound? All right. Something along those lines is a good one. Those are good for time. Question the concern. Do not be sarcastic in this. Oh, really? You don't have 7 to 10 hours on a weekly basis? I mean, come on. What are you doing with that time? All right. That ain't going to work. Right. You got to have empathy for the person. In their mind, if they're giving you that objection, they're not making it up. That's truly how they feel. You know what? I'm just too busy. I cannot put another thing on my plate. Guy, this all sounds great, but it's just not for me right now. Well, hey, Donnie, do you mind if we kind of play with this a little bit? How could we work? What can you just explain to me what your day looks like? All right. Answer the objection, as we just kind of covered there. Confirm the answer. So, Donnie, if we could find a way to fit in that extra hour, as we just talked about, you would be able to do this then, wouldn't you? If I was the person doing all the work with your context, then what would, is there anything else that would prevent you from getting started right now, Danya? All right. So you confirm the answer. In other words, you're closing that objection and then you move on. You don't hang around that location any longer, that conversation any longer. You go, oh, okay, let's get you started. It's just a couple things. What's your name, email, blah, 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 blah. Or you go, hey, is there anything else that would prevent you from going? Do you have any other questions right now? What else can we do? Hey, you want to get, I don't know, whatever. You want to get off of that subject, move on to a new subject as fast as possible, very, very quickly. All right. I'm afraid of this next slide. There it is. All right. So I kind of gave you some ideas of um how to handle some objections. Again, in the course of the conversation you're having with somebody, you're doing this all along. All right. Especially if you're having a conversation. And if you're not getting any kind of feedback from the person, again, you're either not giving a pause for them to ask you a question, or they're not the right person. All right. They're not interested. They just can't wait to get off the phone with you or whatever it might be. So the interaction is really, really important. So let me call up the participants here. And I think you guys can raise your hand. So if there is an objection question that you get often and you would like my ability or whatever to try to work through that. We've got time for one because there's a couple other things I want to get it to. And then there's Sarah's training is also going on. In fact, you could ask, why don't we do that? You could save those objections and ask her on this next call that's coming up in 5 minutes, unless somebody has one. And I'm not seeing any hands raised. So I'm just going to keep moving along then in that case. I guess you guys got it all. That's awesome. I love it. All right. So as you know, we're in the red zone. We got 10 days to the end of the month. The July promotion, I'm telling you folks, this is absolutely incredible what the company put together. You could start somebody right now today with a consumer pack, and they could end this month starting in August as a C5 with $3,500, or excuse me, $2,500 in cash and prizes, right? $1,000 in cash, $1,500 in product. They started with $89. This is working smarter, not harder. All right. It's huge. And if you're not using this as part of your conversation with people, then wow. All right. Oh, I don't have the money to get started. Well, let me show. I'd love to get started with that Pro Pack, but I don't have the money. Well, let me ask you, Donnie, are you really serious about this? She goes, yes. Well, Danya, if you're really serious about this, repeating it back, right? If you're really serious about this, the company right now is running a very special promotion. They've never done anything like this before. If you are serious about this and you attack this promotion with the fervor that I know you have the capability of doing, you could get started at the Pro Pack and it only costs you $89. Would you like to know how? All right. So that's a way to flow this into a conversation. So I wanted to bring that up. Really important that everybody knows, the people that you're bringing on know about this promotion so they can take advantage of it. A person that has desire, a burning white hot desire, can do this in 2 to 3 days. No problem. 20 people. They're brand new to Sealy by Design. Whether they have network marketing experience or not, it doesn't matter. All right. Person's got a burning white hot desire. They've got only 100, 200 names in their phone list. They can get 20 people to sign up on a consumer pack, and you're there to help them do that. Get a VGO going. Go do some extra calls with them. Whatever it takes to help that person get to that 20. And if 20 is too big for them or they don't get it, get to them 15 or at least to 10 so they get the intro pack in the C3 rank starting out next month. The other thing I want to show, this is from a training I did a while back, but this is basically talking about the advantage of upgrades. So a person did get started, and I know we had this month, we had an exorbitant amount of consumer packs get started. We did have some pro packs get in there, some intro packs in there as well. So congratulations to all the new people that got started and the members that did a good job in showing them the value. And we did have a lot of people get started at a consumer pack level as well. The consumer pack level is going to have you as a member. It's only 10% on the personal sales bonus. So they start sponsoring people. They're making 10% on the $50, which is $5. Or they could be at a C3 making $12.50. It's over double, right? So help them understand the importance of upgrading to at least an intro pack by the end of the month. All right. Then we got this. When you're sharing the ways to get started. All right. This is an old picture with the old packs, but the numbers are basically still the same. All right. If you're at 25% on the personal sales bonus at a consumer pack level and you sponsor an intro pack, you're making $22.50. At a networker pack, you're making $45. At a pro pack, you're making $67.50. Nice on the pro pack, right? Because it's 675 in volume. Look what happens to these numbers if they're at a C3. $56. It's almost triple. $45. Again, almost 2/3, right? 67.50 to $168. $100 more just by being at a C3 for every pro pack you're getting in. So I wanted to throw that out as well. The importance of the upgrades. It's so important. We're right at 58 minutes. So people that want to jump on to Sarah's call, you're more than welcome to do that. It's out on our Telegram. It's out on Angela's site as well. If anybody, well, that's interesting. Donnie, you said chat not available to use, but you were able to chat. So you're just letting me know what Tom wanted to say. Okay, good. So I guess the chat feature was working after all. All right, I'm assuming, but whatever. I wish everybody go out with a fervor. Use these tools. This is going to be recorded. You can go back and listen to it. Listen to it and take to heart some of the information that we just passed along here. It will change your business. It will start helping you close more people. What I like to say is opening more doors for people because we know what we have. We just want to help them see it for themselves. And that's what this whole process is about. So thank you very much for tuning in. I'd love to see everybody here. And yeah, everybody stayed on throughout the entire time. So I'm encouraged by that as well. And we'll see you over on Sarah's call now. You guys have a great weekend and let's close July out huge. Bye-bye.